A couple of words about DevOps interviews. The reason why we designed this course is to help people to pass through the interviews. Is one of the things that I noticed while interviewing people is a lot of people struggle during the interviews and during even simplest questions. So during our discussions with a lot of recruiters and with people in my company, and I do a lot of interviews with other companies as well. So what we noticed is a lot of people, they have their own approach, but it doesn't meet the expectations. So the aim behind designing this course was helping people to see our perspective, like what we are looking for when we are hiring, and try to give you some insights into the brain of interviewer and give you some sort of advantage and leverage during the interviewing process. We call this session 0 as it's not the part of the initial course. Initial course was designed to be 4 different sessions, and then 5th one mock interviews, which we are planning to do later. This was sort of summary or treated as a trailer to that course. So we tried to cover the main things that we are going to discuss there so that people may have insights on what to expect on that course and what they can see there. Okay. A little bit intellectual property warnings. Things that I will show here are the materials that belongs to JR Academy. So everything that I made, or you can take your screenshots, etc., but it's not for public usage. Just be aware. A couple of words about myself. Why me? I'm a strong believer that if you're taking advice, you need to take advice from somebody who has done it already or is in the process of doing at least. As they say, don't take financial advice from poor people. If somebody is giving you advice, you need to make sure that that person has at least went through the same path that you are going. I have at least around 10 years of experience in various roles in IT. Right now, I'm more specializing in DevOps, DevSecOps, cloud and platform engineering. I'm tech lead in one of the divisions at Woolies X. So before it was Woolies X, now it's called Woolworths Group. Woolies X was the most startup-y and innovative part of the Woolworths. We were the digital arm of Woolworths. So we were dealing all the application and infrastructure behind the Woolworths application, behind the rewards application, e-commerce side of the businesses. That was all with us. During this time, I've pioneered and established DevSecOps practices, SRE practices at Woolies X. And for the past 5 years, I've been involved heavily into hiring, teaching, coaching new engineers, and helping to design the job description for the new engineers, help with the internship program, and design the internship program to get the candidates that we usually want to get. I do a lot of interviews by myself as well, like I'm applying just to stay in touch with people and just practice my skills. I haven't found anything better than I have currently to leave, but if something comes up, I will probably also leave. The thing with interviews is when even we do the interviews, we see a lot of people show up to the interview, but they are not ready. So I was hoping that this course might help people to prepare and be ready for questions that are coming in the interviews. I think when you will have in your head some sort of framework what to expect, you will be having a huge advantage over other people in the interviews. If I interview around 10 people, only one of them I see really prepared, like they have some sort of framework, they know what to expect, they are ready for the questions, etc. I think that's why this course will give you some sort of advantage over others. Yeah. So that's about me. There's a QR code. If you feel free to scan it and join and send me an invite on LinkedIn, I'm happy to accept invites and reconnect with you. If you have any questions, you can reach out there as well. A couple of words about the contents here. So what we will talk is the introduction to DevOps interviews. I'll try to give highlights of how DevOps interviews work in generally. with Woolworths and at the same time with big companies. Like I'm very familiar with the process of Deloitte. I've been with Deloitte for many years and helped them and consulted for them as well. I know how the process works for big tech companies and big banks as well. I would like to give you a little bit insights on what we actually evaluate when we ask questions, because in a lot of times it's not about just that question. So there are some other pinpoints that we are trying to look, and I think interview process will be very similar to any other exam. If you take ever PTE or IELTS exam or any another exam, it's not about learning or knowing English. Many English speakers cannot even pass the test if they're not prepared. So I think interviews are similar way. If you know the pattern and how to prepare for them, it's very easy to crack. Like now the mock interviews that I do with others, like I can easily pass like 95% of them because I know what they expect, because I do the interviews as well. I will cover a little bit today the interview process and stages so that you have in mind, so that the idea like what stages you should expect to see and what kind of questions. And the question on this interview, on these stages are very different. They expect different things from you. So I will cover and give you highlight and information about that. Common pitfalls that even strong candidates fell into. So I've noticed a lot of strong candidates come and they even do the basic mistakes that shouldn't be doing. So from some point, I understand that it's a strong candidate. He probably has experience. He knows a lot, but he fails to answer or fails to give the answers that we expect from him. And then when we go back and discuss with my manager, how did it go, etc., I see these candidates being like filtered out. And from one point, I realized that it's a good candidate. Like we shouldn't be doing it. But also, I understand why, because he failed to match some criteria. So that's a tough game sometimes. I will give you some actionable ways to how to explain technical projects. One of the stages in the technical interview is to ask you your experience, tell me about the projects that you did, etc. So a lot of people even cannot explain these things. So I'll give you some sort of framework how to go through that questions too. And in general, we will talk about what to expect from the interviewer and how to prepare for these questions. All right, DevOps interview journey. All right, let's talk about the journey itself in general. So during screening, the first stage of this thing, probably some agent will call you or the hiring team will first reach out to you. They are not tech engineers, but they have some sort of checklist that they are going to ask. They usually get it from us and from job description. So when they talk to us and ask what kind of candidate you're looking for, we give them some sort of bullet points. So the first stage will be asking you some sort of technical questions that we actually gave them. So agent will call you, will ask your experience, your motivation, maybe what tools you worked for, because we asked that, okay, if I'm hiring this, I want him to be good with these tools, for example, or these languages. So they will ask you such sort of questions like what kind of project you worked on, etc. And that's important. So many people don't take them seriously. They feel that they are not talking to technical people, so they neglect these questions. But that's actually very important, because a lot of people get filtered out there. So those people are trying to match your skills to the job description that we actually gave them. Let's briefly talk about the events leading up to the interview. So before this is typically the pre-screening call. They will try to understand if you are the good candidate to put into an interview with me. So that's also one of the first filtering processes that you will go through. And sometimes before your information is forwarded to hiring manager like me or my manager, the recruiter will evaluate you by himself. Okay. And then after you pass that thing, the second is usually pair programming. That also has changed in the industry a lot since AI came. Pair programming sessions have seriously changed. Some companies still send you challenge. We don't do that anymore. We usually ask you to share the screen, ask the questions, and ask you right in front of us. So that there's much lower chances for you to cheat or use AI tools to pass through that thing. Before, we used to have several challenges. I designed one of these challenges that we just give, and we give like 8 hours or several days so that they come up with a solution, and then we go through that solution and discuss. Now it's gone away, like we scrapped that. We noticed that it's very easy to do with AI. You just give the task to AI, and I will write all the code for you. So we are doing actual pair programming now, and I've noticed companies like Canva, the same with Combank, for example. Combank is also doing the same thing. So be ready for pair programming if the job description is asking for pair programming. Companies like, for example, Amazon is also doing the same thing. I've noticed in their process, that's also like share screen and ask the questions and try to get you right into something. Second round is system design. In general, system design is very different from pair programming. The questions that you will get there are open-ended questions. They don't have one right answer. So the approach should change. If pair programming was very specific things, you are expected to write very specific code that does very specific thing. In system design, we more evaluate how you think, how you come up with solutions. And in many cases, there are no right or wrong answer. It's more about how you approach the problem. What is your approach to take the questions, break down the big problem into smaller pieces, and how you treat these things and how you come up with solution. And if you give maybe several solutions, how you compare these solutions, etc. So all that thinking process is much more important than your actual design that you come up with. So we will cover that thing. Like we have second session dedicated to specifically system design, where we wrap up different system design questions, and I go through the questions and I'm trying to give you our perspective and the good framework for building good design, like what we think the good design is. And I think that should give you a good foundation on which you can start already like building your design. Project deep dive goes deeper. It's not only just DevOps, it's a lot of infrastructure around it. It's the security, it's monitoring. There's a lot of other things on the project where we are trying to discuss your experience, what you did, and what would be the best way of doing it, what would be the ways of improving that thing, etc. So project deep dive is a more wider and again also open-ended questions. Fourth round, I not always participate in behavioral interview questions. We assess behavioral interview during our interviews. Sometimes I get involved in the behavioral interviews when somebody is not available. I just go through their questions, so I know what to expect and what kind of questions we want to see. But behavioral is also an important part because I think that's one of the main aim of an interviewer is to understand if you will be a good match to join my team. So behavioral interview is also like one of the last and one of the most important things. Some people merge it with managerial rounds. In like Big Four, I know that there's a separate round with managerial where your future probably principal lead or the area director, like asking you questions, or maybe it can be a partner in Big Four companies who is trying to understand if you'll be a good match for their company. So that's general overview and what to expect from the steps. Regarding what we really evaluate during the interviews, DevOps interviews aren't just pop quiz or on Kubernetes or how you know Terraform or how you know JavaScript or something. They are designed to identify people who think holistically, people who can architect systems, people who can automate intelligently, explain their thoughts clearly, and build things that don't just work but scale out. Things that really survive outages or deliver real impact to the other systems. So this is actually what we are trying to understand during the interviews. If we break these things down, Interviewers want to know if you had some sort of accountability, you own systems, or they will test your thinking like, why did you use that tool, for example? What went wrong, or what trade-offs? There's always trade-offs. If we are asking trade-offs and you say that there wasn't, it means you really didn't get the question, because there's always trade-offs. So what kind of trade-offs there were in that solution, for example? You need to be able to answer these questions. And they care deeply actually about how you communicate on the uncertainty, like things that you don't know, how you will communicate these things, because in your day-to-day work there will be uncertain. There will be a lot of uncertainty that you will need to figure out and communicate clearly. We are trying to understand how you actually learn. Will you be able to pick up things that we are here? I think Woolies, and especially Woolies X, has one of the most complex infrastructures here. And when we are selecting candidates, like we are trying to understand if this person is teachable as well. Like, will he or she will be able to pick up things quickly? I know big four companies really make emphasis on your learnability as well. So along the journey and along my slides, I will show you questions and I will explain why these questions are important. And the point behind these questions is to identify that if you learn something along your journey. And this is why interviews often feel open-ended, because they look for engineers who think like partners and not just script writers or code writers. And I think one of the biggest difference between DevOps and software engineering is in DevOps, you need to know much more wider things, even if it's thinner, much more wider things, where in software engineering, you need to know just one area, but really deep. So the things we will be looking for is your problem-solving skills, your automation mindset, if you have automated stuff and why you did it, like you wanted to do it or you were just told to do it. If you kept in mind security and reliability in your designs, if you owned really systems and not just familiar with tools. So this is the really things that we are actually trying to identify when we are asking questions. And I've listed some questions during the pair programming session. There's a lot of just technical questions, but in other stages, we go through other like open-ended questions and we discuss why they are being asked and what's the point behind them. In pair programming session, one of the important things that a lot of people forget, I think even good, that this is one of the things that even good people fell into this stuff, they don't think aloud. I see they just sit quiet. A lot of people do that, and they try to solve without speaking. That is big minus, I would say. Like if you don't speak, we don't understand what you are thinking. And the point when the questions are asked is to see actually what you're thinking. So thinking in public is one of the important things, like green flags for us, like to see that you can actually verbalize your thoughts and you can explain why you are making decisions, what the steps going through. That's all very important information to us. If you are not showing it, you are hiding a lot of things that you actually could shine. For example, like when you're writing something and you can, good candidates, for example, say that I'm going to use Terraform here because of this, because I wanted to do this, and because for future it can move to another cloud, I can still use the same Terraform language. And I think Terraform language is, for example, the most commonly used language that it will be easy for the team to understand, etc. And I think this is the best way to do it. And then you start writing, and when, for example, you're abstracting something and putting to module, you can also think that, I think that a lot of other things will be using it. So write once and use many times. So I would think that this thing really belongs to a module. Or even if you are not doing it, you're saying it, that I think if I would do it in real world, I would put this part to another module and I would each time calling module so that the code is repeatable. Even that would be fine. Like that thinking process and verbalizing your thoughts is much more important than actually what you are doing during the interview. Comfort with imperfection is one of the interesting things that the solutions that you will come up will never be perfect. There will be always some weak points in it, etc. And you need to be really comfortable with it. And when the interviewer points to it, I've noticed a lot of people lose their compassion and lose their stance, and they start panicking that, okay, I said something wrong probably. I think one of the important things is being comfortable with your solution, even if it's imperfect, and accept that any solution you will come up will never be perfect. So there will be weak points in every solution. They can point it out, and you can use that and saying that, yes, this can be improved in this way. Your debugging under pressure is very important. So when you write code and there's something doesn't work, like how you approach to debugging is also one of the important things that we pay attention. We're trying to understand like how this person will debug things when others watching him, because it's a very nervous process. We understand that. All the interviews like get through that. The good thing for it, I've done it so many times, I already don't get into stressful situation. I think if you keep doing it a lot, even without intention of going, and you know that you will not gonna go and you still do it. And I've done it so many times that I've already get absolutely comfortable with debugging and working under pressure when somebody's watching me. I get involved into a lot of late nights in incident investigations where I have to share my screen and debug and find problems where 50 people watching me. So I've got already comfortable with it, but if you're not comfortable, I would suggest like, I will give you some techniques actually during the course, how you can actually get comfortable with debugging. I think that will help you if you start practicing these things. And be very fluent with the tools that you're using. So choose the tools that you're really comfortable to use. If the interviewers ask you to write in one programming language and you're not comfortable and you're saying that they say we don't care, write in any language, write the language that you're actually comfortable. So you're very fluent with the tool that you're using. Code as infrastructure, like you will need to likely be asked to write something in Terraform, Bash, in YAML, some Kubernetes manifest. This reveals how you balance clarity, security, and maintainability of your infrastructure code. So that's also an important part. And of course, the team fit. That's team fit. In design section. In design section, that's our second session will be, where I've already designed a separate process flows that we will go through with you. The system design round is DevOps interview, not just for software engineers anymore. DevOps engineers are now expected to think like architects too. And interviewers are evaluating your ability to take business requirement and translate it into well-thought infrastructure plan. So if we break it down, end-to-end infrastructure thinking will need to be there. Like, are you thinking holistically, like from end to end, you're taking into consideration everything? Can you design a secure networking, for example? Can it be scalable? What's your approach, for example, to store some sensitive data, or to build some pipeline that actually deploys to production, for example? How you treat the trade-offs, this is crucial. Choosing, are you choosing multi-region deployments, for example? What's your approach to managing cost and complexity? Can you justify it by like why you make these decisions, for example? Do you know when a managed service is better than self-hosted service? I will give you several examples of these questions, and we'll try to, during the sessions, like go through these questions. Obviously, I cannot predict all the questions you will get, but I hope that I can give you a framework how to approach these questions. In the system design session, we will discuss reliability and high availability of the systems. Like, your system and the design that you come up with must survive zone failures, for example. If the data center fails, it should survive rollbacks, for example, or redeployments, and recover from incidents if you build an incident, because you will be asked, like, what if an incident happens. What are you going to do? So what's your plan during the incidents? How you can prevent these incidents happen? Showing understanding of things like replication, load balancing, backups, and readiness probes, etc., will be very important. So we expect when we are hiring at least a mid-level DevOps engineer so that they will be able to answer these questions, understand scalability, understand security, understand the purpose of CI/CD process, etc. So I will just, I don't want to break the slides, so I will go through slides and then I'll show you a little bit of material so that you have like an idea what to expect. We will talk through common pitfalls. Even highly skilled DevOps engineers usually go into pitfalls and make mistakes. Even people who write Terraform every day and write their codes and build the pipelines every day often underperform in interviews. And it's not because they lack skills, but because miss how to present them, how to correctly present them. So if we break that down, sometimes they are too tool focused rather than outcome focused, saying that, for example, oh yeah, I used Helm or Terraform or Argo CD. It doesn't mean much in the context. Like it doesn't give me anything. Like, yeah, you used Terraform and what did you do with it? It doesn't tell me what problem you solved. Was it a complex problem? What changed after you implemented it, or what was the impact? So I will try to guide you to focus on much more important thing rather than being very tool focused. Tools already mentioned in your CV, and if I want to know if you use that tool or not after you describe solution and the goal and how you reached it, etc. If I really need, I will ask, oh, you use Bicep or Terraform, and that will be it. Like what I'm asking and what I'm expecting to see is much more wider than that. Some people do very shallow project explanations. For example, many candidates gloss over the important architecture decisions and challenges and what lessons they learned, etc. That's all very important information that interviewers actually want to hear from you. Think, for example, why did you choose, for example, this setup? What broke during that setup? What did you improve? And what was the outcome of it, for example? This kind of things that will give me more detail during project explanations, and that's very important as well. Do not ignore why questions. If the interviewer asks why, there's a high chance that there's a logic behind it. And always be ready to explain your thinking why you choose that tool, why you choose that architecture, why you decided to go that way. Anything probably you can describe and say can be followed up with why that. And that a lot of people I've noticed during the interviews that people get caught in like that in the question and they don't know what to reply to that. When you ask why and they say I don't know, just it was the decision made. And that already tells me that you didn't make that decision. Why did you choose Kubernetes over standard, for example, app services? Why CI/CD with GitHub Actions and not, for example, Jenkins or Azure DevOps, for example? And if you cannot answer these questions, it means you either don't know the tools that were chosen or you were just doing blindly. And good candidates show that the choices were made intentionally, actually. Failure stories are very important. I am really a strong believer that people learn from their failures a lot. So we like to ask questions like, tell me the story that you failed, for example, and we start working on it. And there's a lot of questions comes like following up these things, like what went wrong? Why did you fail? What did you learn? What was the outcomes, etc. So that's where one of the like common pitfalls that I would suggest you to focus on. I'll give you actionable ways to explain technical projects, how to turn work experience into interview winning stories. The framework, this 4-step framework, we will cover this in more detail. There is much more to it, but the general approach is start with the problem, explain the approach and reasoning, describe the execution, and highlight the impact, like what did you do and how it impacted. So we have separate slides to go through that in more detail. Regarding my final thoughts, we are at 7:41. I'll just quickly cover the final thoughts. As we wrap up, the ground expectations will be most DevOps interviews actually span the technical architecture, collaborative capabilities. You're not just being tested on syntax writing or not being evaluated of your coding skills. It's more of a judgment in your thinking and team communication skills, and expectations are usually around you might see a system design round where you take sketch and you have to whiteboard and design something and put some important stuff on it, etc. And there's also process to it, like I will explain how to actually do it. And on pair programming sessions where you debug or fail the deployment and write a bash script, for example, on the spot, you'll often be asked to walk through your past project and what you actually did similar and what's your storytelling point. So that will be my final thoughts, probably. I want to, if I can, stop sharing this and reshare the whole screen. Again, stop share. Okay. Do you guys still see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I will quickly show you a couple of things from the questions. So we come up with questions that we usually ask during the interview. So one of the pipeline questions was, for example, how to treat the secrets, actually. And you're giving a piece of pipeline. It may be a shared my screen or shared screen where you have a cloud working environment. We give you access and you just look at the working code and you try to fix it. For example, and in most cases, it may look very straightforward, that the name of the secret, but this line won't actually resolve the secret, and you are asked to address it. And I'll give you explanations and steps to prepare these questions. I've prepared actually a lot of them, some of them on parallel jobs, on CI/CD process itself. There is another entire section for Terraform questions and Azure DevOps structure, jobs, how jobs supposed to work, like how you're supposed to build these Terraform questions, for example, what we are usually looking in these questions while asking these questions and what to expect, etc. There's a lot of tricky questions, but I think it will prepare your mind to understand and go through these questions and be ready to answer such questions. There is systems design where we usually go through the approach on designing, going through non-functional requirements and designing systems on high level, like what we expect the high level diagram should look like. I will give you several diagrams, like how CI/CD process we expect you to put and what to do in the first step, like go through high level, like put the main stuff, and then which details you actually need to put there, and what we actually will ask you in such questions. There's a lot of these diagrams here. I designed several for DevOps, the tools, there's cloud designs, etc., which we will go through. This is the questions. There's some materials that I will give you to prepare these questions. A lot of interviewers go through these questions, and I'll tell you how to treat them. But this is mainly the general approach of what we will do in these 4-5 sessions. We will do 5 sessions, probably 5 sessions. In 4 sessions, we will go through each steps that I've described. We'll explain the questions to expect and see how you approach these questions. And after that, we will try to have the 5th session where we will do the mock interviews. I'm not sure how that will work. I think I will need to work with JR Academy's staff. Probably they will help me to set up. We will probably design something like 20 minutes, 15 minutes interview on the stage that you choose. Probably if you choose, for example, pair programming, or if you choose system design or behavioral interview, we can focus on that. So I'll probably get a list of your desires of which area you would like to be tested, and then I'll provide you feedback. Hopefully that will help you to prepare for the interviews. So that's about it.
点关注，澳洲求职不迷路。